LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, Brexit Party leader Nigel Farage says he won't now be standing in next month's general election. Robert Jenrick, Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, has given LBC reaction.
I have respect for Nigel Farage. I think he will be remembered as one of the great political campaigners of my lifetime, but he needs to take yes for an answer. He's helped to secure the referendum result. He's helped to secure a good Brexit, but we now need to get that done.
But Joe Swinson, leader of the Liberal Democrats, whose party wants to stop Brexit, says the Prime Minister apologising for not delivering Brexit by October the 31st only has himself to blame.
He wanted this job for so long, and he was prepared to say whatever he felt he should say in order to get that job without giving any real thought to what he would do.
This morning there have been more policy announcements, the Conservatives saying they'll end the freeze on benefits, Labour promising £60 billion to make homes more energy efficient. Separately, former Culture Minister Margot James says she won't be standing in next month's general election. The Conservative MP for Stourbridge has told LBC why.
In spite of the Prime Minister's backing, which I got last week when I had the whip returned, and I very much appreciated that, I didn't think that I had sufficient support from quite a number of people in my local association to stand, in spite of the fact that I absolutely love my job.
In other headlines this hour, Essex police are treating the death of a 36-year-old man as murder after he was killed when a car collided into a pub. A man of 40 has been arrested on suspicion of murder, grievous bodily harm, death by dangerous driving and assault. 3 other people were injured in the early hours in Colchester. MPs are demanding government releases the result of an investigation into if Russia tried to influence UK general elections and the Brexit referendum. The report was cleared for publication last month. Facebook says it has clear rules against posting graphic content. It follows images circulated believed to show the body of Amelia Bambridge, the British backpacker found in the sea off Cambodia. It's understood the photos have now been removed. Members of the Vietnamese community have gathered in London for a vigil in memory of the 39 people found dead in a container lorry in Essex. The service was at a Catholic church in Bow, East London last night, which has a large Vietnamese congregation. The annual London to Brighton Veteran Car Run is underway, the longest-running motoring event in the world. More than 400 cars dating back more than 100 years are taking part. Event chairman Miles Wade has told LBC it'll take around 8 hours.
We've got 2 routes that take us swiftly out of London to Croydon, halfway stop at Crawley, and we would hope that by mid-afternoon we've got most of our veteran cars in Brighton.
LBC Weather. Sunshine, showers and rain, persistent over eastern and northern Scotland, drier over the Midlands and East Wales, a high of 14 degrees. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Philip Chrysikos.
Hi Susan, what's a Brew City Brew Bite?
It's Beer Munch.
Oh, all right, but what exactly is it?
It's Beer Munch.
Okay. But what about a Brew City Halloumi Fry?
It's Beer Munch.
And an onion straw?
It's Beer Munch.
Yeah, it's Beer Munch. Yeah, so you keep saying. Hot, shareable snacks that are delicious with a cold beer and friends. You'll find them in the freezer aisle. Brew City.
It's Beer Munch.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
Hello, a very good morning. It's 4 minutes past 11 on LBC. It's Iain Dale here with you until 12. I'm doing the Sunday show for the next 6 weeks. Nigel Farage is otherwise engaged, as you might imagine, doing an election campaign. Now, you can watch the next hour on Facebook and Twitter, but not via the website or YouTube for reasons I don't quite understand. But anyway, if you want to watch us, you can do so on Facebook and Twitter. Richard Tice joins me, chairman of the Brexit Party, MEP for the East of England.
Good morning, Ian.
Good morning. You've never fought a general election before, I don't think, have you?
No, I haven't. I mean, the truth is I'm quite new to politics. You know, I've only been an elected MEP since the end of May. So yes, I'm a newly elected MEP, but I will be standing in the general election in a seat. Well, that's a very good question. I'll be announcing where at the back end of this coming week.
Why are you being so coy? Because we all know it's Uxbridge.
Well, look, people can make all sorts of speculation. It's been rumoured that it might be Thurrock, it might be Uxbridge. Who knows? Who knows where Boris is going to stand, for example? There's rumours that he might have to disappear somewhere to Beaconsfield or Sevenoaks. Well, even Rutland, I heard.
Well, I can tell you he's not going to Sevenoaks because I'm chairing that selection next Sunday.
Well,
and
you've got inside information.
I know who the candidates are, and he ain't on the shortlist. So.
No, let's wait and see. Look, Andrew Pearce came up with the Uxbridge idea. He was sort of here on LBC. Look, we'll be announcing it later this week, and you just got to be patient.
I was expecting an exclusive. I'm a bit disappointed in you, Richard, if I'm honest. Now, Harry Cole in the Mail on Sunday today says that the Conservative Party tried to recruit you from the Brexit Party. They apparently offered you the seat of Rutland, Alan Duncan's seat, where you are a school governor at Uppingham School, it says.
I'm a school governor at Uppingham School, and look, I'm not for sale. I'm not going anywhere.
But did you get an approach?
Look, people talk,
So
people
that's a
chat.
yes. That's a yes, isn't it?
The reality is...
Don't be so coy.
Look, I'm not for sale. People can say or offer whatever they want. I'm going nowhere.
Who approached you?
Of course I'm not going to talk about anything like that.
Well, why not? I mean,
because
it's nothing to be ashamed of.
It's
To be in demand is a good thing.
To be honest, it's quite flattering. But listen, the reality is, whatever anybody might think or offer, I'm going nowhere.
Right, well, let's move on to more substantial issues. Well, in fact, before we do, let's talk about Nigel Farage announcing this morning that he's not standing. He's fret, isn't he? Because he's lost 8 elections. He didn't want to lose a 9th.
Nonsense. He explained very clearly on the Andrew Marr show that actually, if you're trying to run a national campaign as leader of the party, as well as standing in a constituency, the danger is that you're sort of, you're neither one nor the other. And, he saw from when he was running for Thanet back in 2015 that it's really, really difficult, and you end up potentially neither succeeding at both. So he's made the choice.
That is a ridiculous argument. Boris Johnson is managing it, Joe Swinson's managing it, Jeremy Corbyn's managing it.
Yes, but they are incumbents with an existing constituency. That's the key difference, and that's why, far from being a ridiculous argument, actually he's learning from previous experience, and it's really important this time round that he can go on a nationwide tour and explain to the country why actually this deal that Boris is saying get Brexit on, actually it's got huge pitfalls, huge traps, and people really need to understand it so they can make their judgment.
Let's just play you a clip from Nigel's interview with Donald Trump, where he's basically saying that a trade deal would be much more difficult under Boris Johnson's deal.
We're far and away the largest economy in the world, and we want to do trade with UK, and they want to do trade with us. And to be honest with you, this deal, under certain aspects of the deal, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't trade. Well, I mean, we can't make a trade deal with the UK, and we can be... Because I think we can do many times the numbers that we're doing right now, and certainly much bigger numbers that you're doing under the European Union.
Well, I'm like you.
I know Boris wants to be very careful with that.
What Nigel should have said, of course, is that Donald Trump was talking absolute rubbish, because this deal actually makes it easier to do trade deals than Theresa May's deal did.
No, he's not talking rubbish at all. The reality is that under this deal, you can only implement a trade deal after the end of the transition period. We have no idea how long this transition period is going
December
to be.
2020.
No, we don't. Michel Barnier said 2 weeks ago it'll be at least 3 years before we can sign a free trade arrangement. And so our concern is that instead of being trapped by the backstop, actually from here on we could be trapped by the transition. There is no incentive whatsoever for the EU to let us sign an FTA if we're in the transition period where we're continuing to pay our annual payments and yet we've got no voice, no veto, no say whatsoever.
Can all be negotiated before, and you're right that they can't actually be signed until the end of the transition agreement. But that was the case before.
How can you negotiate something if you don't know the basis on which our other obligations are to the European Union with a trade deal on there? The crucial thing is in the political declaration, which is the sort of the indicative heads of terms of a future arrangement. Under Articles Clause 77 of that political declaration, you've got in there what's called level playing field rules, which basically means that we won't be able to deregulate on things that we want to. We were obligated to maintain tax arrangements very, very similar, if not identical, to the European Union. And these are the sort of things that actually mean we'll be much less attractive for countries like the US to do a trade deal with us.
You would be right if all of those things were still in the withdrawal agreement and therefore legally binding. This is a political declaration which is different from the withdrawal agreement. And if we don't like a level playing field in a particular area, let's say state aid, for example,
which we don't,
then we don't sign it. It's as simple as that. A trade agreement is a two-way thing.
Correct. You're absolutely
both sides have to. It has to be good for both sides.
But this Parliament has already said they're not prepared to walk away. You know, if we knew,
that's this Parliament.
Well, if we knew, for example, that we were prepared to walk away at the end of 2020 because it was clear that we were not going to get a free trade arrangement, you might be in a different place. But all the mood music we're getting from the Conservative government is that, you know, indeed we think they might even be wanting to put it in their manifesto, is that, you know, they are absolutely committed to getting a free trade agreement, and therefore they would not be prepared to walk away. And if you're not prepared to walk away, you will never negotiate with proper
if we had Theresa May
leverage
as our Prime Minister, I could entirely agree with you, because her track record was of giving in at every single moment that she possibly could under the auspices of Ollie Robbins. We now have a different Prime Minister who has proven that he can negotiate, and we know now from people in Brussels that the reason that they did the deal with him because they were afraid that he was serious, that he would walk away. Therefore, they look at him in a very different way than they did Theresa May.
Until his negotiating legs were taken from under him by the Benn Act, which meant that he couldn't walk away. And our real fear, is that that will continue in the next Parliament. You know, the numbers are close. Who knows what the result will be? But, you know, if you cannot walk away from an arrangement, then you will be trapped in it forever. And I come back to the key point. I agree with you. I come back to the key point. Michel Barnier said it would be at least 3 years, and they love it. You know, they've got no incentive to sign a free trade deal when we're paying in there with no
They have every incentive.
They have no incentive whatsoever.
They have every incentive to sign a free trade.
Give me an incentive.
Well, I'll give you an incentive in that we do much more trade with them than they do with us. We import far more from them than we export to them. So therefore, the incentive is on them to come to a deal with us rather than the other way round. That is incontrovertible.
But Iain, that will continue in the transition period. So they're going to say, we're paying in 21 and 22, we'd be paying in 13 billion pounds a year. We'll still have that existing trade under the current arrangements. So that won't change. So they'll be saying, happy days. These folks are paying. This country's paying in, but they've got no voice, no veto.
Then it comes it comes back to what I just said before. If you believe that Boris Johnson is a weak negotiator and isn't prepared to walk away, then you're right.
Exactly. And that's our deep concern.
He has proved, contrary to what you thought, contrary to what I thought, contrary to what virtually the whole country thought, that he was prepared to do that. And yes, you're right, Parliament pulled the rug from under him. Now, what you're doing here is you're going to stand all these candidates all over the country and make a Conservative majority much less likely. So if we have a hung Parliament...
That's classic...
Well, no, it's not. It's not classic. It's just a statement of fact.
OK, and Iain, you know full well that back in 2015, when Nigel's predecessor party, UKIP, when they stood, actually, they took more votes in the Labour constituencies. And interestingly, the reason that Cameron got his majority in 2015 was because they won marginal seats in some of the the marginal areas because of the number of votes that UKIP took from the Labour Party. So it's wrong to assume that we will only take votes for Conservatives. There are 5 million people, 5 million Labour voters who voted Brexit, who are deeply, deeply angry that the Labour Party is no longer going to carry out its manifesto commitments in 2016.
So why not just stand in those seats? And I maybe I heard the wrong gossip here, but there are quite a few people in the Brexit Party, John Longworth among them, and I understand you might have been one as well, but
nonsense.
you might
Absolute
want to
nonsense.
correct this.
Absolute nonsense.
That many people in the Brexit Party believe that you should only be standing in those kind of seats and not in the seats that would jeopardise a Conservative victory, say, in the southwest.
Look, we're not here to help the Conservative Party.
Well, no, you're there to deliver Brexit, aren't you? That's what you want to do.
Yeah, but
and people say you're jeopardising it.
But no, our real concern is that what Boris is pushing is actually will not lead to Brexit. It will lead to a permanent, never-ending transition period. That is our real concern, and that is the trend at which this is going. We know what Michel Barnier is saying about at least 3 years. We know that he's the negotiator during the next period, and he's a fantastic negotiator. So that is our our real concern, and we want to make sure that voters around the country, that they're not misled by lazy statements from existing politicians. Say, for example, Boris himself stood in the House of Commons and said we'd get back control of our fishing waters. That is not true. If you look in the withdrawal treaty, actually, fishing will carry on in the transition period exactly as it is, and the EU...
Yes, but not afterwards.
Hang on. No, funny enough, it does...
The key here is afterwards.
Yes, and what does it say in the political declaration about afterwards for fishing? It says that they will negotiate access to our waters.
And what's wrong with that?
Well, because they're our waters. We
exactly.
Control them.
So we hold the whip hand. So we can therefore decide who gets access to our waters.
They'll never sign a free trade deal until we give access.
Well, look,
if they know that we're not prepared to walk away.
This is where... If you are just purist and ideological about it, you will never get any kind of agreement on anything. All trade agreements involve a bit of give and take on this and that. You must know that as a businessman.
Of course I do.
So therefore,
but you
can't be absolutist about saying, not a single EU fishing vessel can have access to our waters.
That's not what I'm saying. But this agreement, it basically says that we've got to negotiate access. You've got to retain these things, under our control. And yes, there's always a bit of give and take, but we need to be in control of it, not actually dictated to by, this transition which could go on and on and on. And, in reality, what we can see what the EU will do. They will say, well, unless you agree this on level playing field, unless you agree this on fishing, unless you agree this on tax, on state aid, we're not going to sign a free trade deal.
Well, again, I come back to the point.
You've got to be prepared to walk away.
We have much more power in these negotiations than we had in the withdrawal negotiations, I would say, because of the imbalance of trade. And therefore, it's not a case of them dictating to us.
Sorry, it's completely wrong. The imbalance of trade point, they've got that already, and we're going to be in this transition period.
Want to keep it.
Well, yes, of course they do, but they can keep it because they can keep us in the transition period for year after year after year.
Boris Johnson says, well, after 3 years, we are going to walk away.
Well, that's the key thing. And you've got to be prepared to walk away. That's the only way you can negotiate.
I agree.
There we are.
And don't you think that he's demonstrated that over the last 3 months? And it was only the Ben Act that stopped him from doing that.
The Ben Act stopped him. Who knows what the result will be. But, our deep concern is that the flaws in this agreement are that we will be trapped in this transition period and that the negotiating team, will not do a good enough job to protect key issues that are vital in terms of taking back control of our sovereignty, our laws, our trade, our borders, our fishing waters.
What if Boris Johnson said, OK, I hear your doubts, I understand them, I understand Michel Barnier is a very good negotiator, OK, I can't accept your deal, which Nigel Farage perfectly knew that he wouldn't be able to do. I can't accept your deal. But here's something, you can have a person on our free trade agreement negotiating team. Would that be enough to maybe stop you standing in every seat?
Well, the reality is that Nigel made an offer to the Conservatives at the end of at the end of August. Right? They just automatically rejected it. He's made an offer on Friday. They've automatically rejected it. They know where we are. If they want to talk about something, do you know what? Why not have the courtesy to give us a ring?
So you wouldn't rule that out? Look, if they offered a role in the negotiations, you might think again.
Of course we're prepared to put country before party. That's what we've always said. But they know where we are, and they know our position, they know our concerns. Give us a call.
Well, lots more to come with Richard Tice, including your calls. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. It's 18 minutes past 11.
This is LBC.
The B&Q 3 for 2 offer is now on, with an unmissable 3 for 2 on tiles and flooring. Our show-stopping deal ends this Sunday, so hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3 for 2 it. Excludes cut-to-measure flooring, flooring accessories and underlay. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free. See DIY.com.
With the new Halifax Family Boost mortgage, children can get help to buy their first home and mum and dad earn interest on their savings. Everyone's a winner.
Everyone's a winner, baby, that's true.
The new Halifax Family Boost mortgage. Halifax makes it happen.
Your home and savings could be at risk if mortgage repayments are not maintained. Only available in England and Wales. One applicant must hold a Halifax Reward or Ultimate Reward current account. Conditions and exclusions apply.
Betting with a traditional bookie is like an orchestra that only plays the triangle. But on the Betfair Exchange, you have more ways to bet with more opportunities to win. You can even lay a bet, which means betting on something not to happen, or set your own odds and see who takes them on. Why not give it a go? The Betfair Exchange.
T's and C's apply. Exchange basic package customers pay 2% commission. Other charges may apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Fly Ryanair to Dublin this winter. Cosy up with live music in one of Dublin's pubs. Check out the free museums or head to the coast for delicious seafood. Fly to Dublin from just $24.99 per person one way. Ryanair. Low fares made simple. Limited availability. Book by November 30th for travel by the end of March 2020. For conditions, see ryanair.com.
Swell Heating is on a myth-busting mission. Painting your radiators black won't make them hotter. But there is lots of smart technology that can cut your heating bills. For specialist advice on innovative heating devices, visit swellheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
I never belong. I gotta be me. I gotta be me.
The Skoda winter event will get the whole family singing, with 0% APR on the Skoda Kodiaq and Skoda Karoq between the 7th and 21st of November. Search Skoda winter event for more details. Driven by something different. Skoda. With Solutions Personal Contract Plan. Minimum 15% deposit, maximum term 36 months. Order between the 7th and 21st of November. Participating retailers only. 18s and over. Subject to status. T's and C's apply. Indemnities may be required. Skoda Financial Services. Visit skoda.co.uk.
Money. How does that word make you feel? You might be thinking about what you'd love to spend it on, or what you have to spend it on. Maybe you think you're just bad with money, but here's the thing. You're not. You're just with the wrong bank. At Starling Bank, we want you to feel good about money. So we built a personal and business bank account with clever budgeting tools, instant payment alerts, and no fees when you spend overseas. Starling Bank, voted Britain's best bank twice. Download the app today. Smart Money People Awards. Eligibility criteria applies.
Leading Britain's conversation. Iain Dale. Tweet at LBC.
It's 21 minutes past 11. We have Richard Tice with us. He's going to take your calls in about 10 minutes' time. He's chairman of the Brexit Party. Richard, Lance Foreman, your MEP colleague, told us last night on LBC that he hoped there would be informal deals at a local level where Tory and Brexit candidates would stand down. Now, I can't quite see how that would happen, because if any Conservative candidate agreed to the demands that Nigel was making to the National Party, they wouldn't be allowed to stand, would they?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because actually we've had all sorts of contacts from lots of Tory MPs who are saying, what can I do? Can we talk? So I think that, there will be stuff that could go on locally, and never underestimate the ability of British voters to actually, you're lending your vote for one election until the next election, and I think people will vote tactically in order to achieve what they really want to see. So I think we know we're going to see some local activity, some joint working, and I think that that will align with some significant tactical voting. Of course, you're seeing it on the Remain side already. You saw it in the Brecon by-election. The Lib Dems, the Greens, Plaid. I think they've already reached a deal on a number of seats. Brighton they're talking about, and various others. So look, this is going on the Remain side. So why shouldn't it happen on the Leave side?
Even if there isn't a national deal, you think that there could be seats where you would stand down in favour of, just to pick a few names at random, Steve Baker, Mark Francois, Bill Cash?
Look, we've made it clear to people that we believe that they shouldn't have agreed to this current withdrawal treaty. And if someone pledges to us, from any party, whether it's Conservative, whether it's Labour, whatever, if they pledge to us that actually they wouldn't back this deal in its current form, then yeah.
But they already have. They've already voted for it on the second reading.
But as you well know, we're now into a new Parliament, and it comes back because it starts again. So look, we're here to talk. They know our numbers. Come and have a chat. And people are already sending us texts. So things will happen.
Dave Morris from Much Wenlock in Shropshire has sent this text, which I think is quite funny. He says, a question for both of you. When you leave home, do you leave one foot in the door or continue on your journey? The country voted leave, not for a new treaty, which I suppose is grist to your mill. But
absolutely, and he's quite right. I always say, if a job's worth doing, do it properly. Don't do a half job. You don't half paint a bedroom. You don't half refit your kitchen. You do it properly. If the country had voted to remain, they wouldn't have said, oh, yeah, but actually 48% voted to leave, so therefore we should half leave.
According to Comres, in a poll for Channel 5 a couple of weeks ago, 67% of Brexit Party voters support Boris Johnson's deal. Now, even if it's 60%, I mean, it's still quite a lot. Isn't that going to be a big problem for you? I had a call from a guy in Canterbury earlier. I don't know if you heard that. Yeah. And he represents a bit of a problem for you, doesn't he? Because any potential Conservative voter who's thinking, shall I vote Conservative or Brexit Party, is going to think, well, if I'm in this constituency, I might want to vote for the Brexit Party, but it's kind of helping Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, I think there'll be, as I said just now, there will be tactical voting all over the country, depending on someone's preference, what they want to see. But look, Boris did a great job just after he had announced his deal with the European Union. He did a great job of convincing everybody this is a great new deal. Look, it's 95% exactly the same as Theresa May's deal. He's basically just put a wonderful bit of sort of salesmanship on it. But actually, our job is to make sure that people really understand what is involved. And that's why Nigel's decided that he's got to go around the country and properly explain that to people so they can see actually
what would your advice,
huge risks in that deal.
What would your advice be to our caller from Canterbury, where there's a Labour majority? I think it's in the dozens rather than hundreds. What would your advice be to him, to vote Conservative or to vote for the Brexit Party?
Well, he'll have to make his own individual judgment, depending on...
But what would your advice be?
It's not for me to advise him. He'll make his judgment. There'll be tactical voting. There'll be tactical voting on. What I would say to him is, look very carefully at this deal. Look at the obligations in the withdrawal treaty, and look at the obligations in the political declaration. Look at the risks and the pitfalls, and then make your judgment.
But there is a majority of 187 in that constituency, so his vote is absolutely crucial. I'm quite surprised that as chairman of the Brexit Party, you didn't automatically say, well, of course he should vote for the Brexit Party. But then on the other hand, you can't say that because you know that if there's a Labour MP there, it helps Jeremy Corbyn get into power.
Look, we've always said we put country before party. Look closely at the deal, then form your view. And I think people, when they look at it, they will say, actually, that's not Brexit. I want a proper Brexit. I'll vote the Brexit Party.
So you think he should vote for the Brexit Party?
When he looks at it, I think, if he believes in a clean Brexit, then yes, he should vote for the Brexit Party.
I wasn't going to go to calls until after past, but I'm going to because there are so many coming in. So let's go to Daniel in Epsom. Daniel, what would you like to ask?
Richard, I'm a Conservative, but I did pay £25 to the Brexit Party.
Morning, Daniel. Thank you.
Right, but I think this time you've overstepped the mark, and so have Nigel. I think you're far out of step for public opinion. Because if we end up with a Marxist in number 10, or no Brexit at all because of your actions, the public will never forgive you or Nigel.
Well, look, I mean, the reality is, as I said earlier, which you may or may not have heard, Daniel, in 2015, actually, UKIP helped the Conservatives get a majority because they meant that, certain Labour marginals went Conservative as opposed to stayed Labour. Look, we've got to make sure that the country understands, what is in this agreement and then makes its choice. And do you know what, if Daniel, if people are concerned about this, then actually, we've always said we're here for a big Leave alliance that will deliver a thumping majority. If people are worried about it, have a word with CCHQ and say, why don't you pick up the phone to these guys?
Yeah, but Richard, you know that they can't do that because significant numbers of moderate, small C Conservatives will leave in droves. You knew that in the first place. And I'll tell you what, I guarantee you, Richard, and Nigel, if you're listening, if we do end up with a Marxist in number 10 who ruins the country, or no Brexit at all, I'm telling you now, the public, will, because of your actions, they will not forgive you. Honestly, you want to rethink twice about it, Richard. You're out of step with public opinion.
Daniel, and I appreciate what you're saying, but the reality is, if
you
people
don't appreciate it,
we absolutely appreciate it. It's important that people understand what is in this deal, and if people are worried about, if you don't want a Marxist government, don't vote for Jeremy Corbyn. If you want a proper Brexit, vote for the Brexit Party. But
with Boris's deal, eventually we will leave. It is a form of Brexit, right? But
it's not a form of Brexit. If you're still trapped in a transition, you're still controlled by the ECJ. You haven't got control of your laws, trade and borders, and you're still paying it short. It goes on and on and on. Michel Barnier said it's at least 3 years, Daniel. At least 3 years.
We've had 40 years worth of alignment. It might take some time to get out. Honestly, you're out of step. You've overstepped the mark now. I mean, I love Nigel. I used to have a pint with him in the Westminster Arms in the UKIP days, and I love the man. But you've gone too far. You've been too zealous.
Daniel, what happens in the Westminster Arms stays in the Westminster Arms.
But look, Daniel, we've offered a Leave alliance. It's very clear. Rather than sort of arrogantly sitting in their headquarters, why not give us a call, folks?
Daniel, thank you very much for that. I have to say, looking at the texts and tweets that are coming in, a lot of people are agreeing with Daniel there. Here's one from Joe, who says, I love Richard Tice. There you go.
Things are looking up on a Sunday morning.
No accounting for taste. I was a Brexit voter in the EU elections. Unfortunately, at the moment, the Brexit Party is coming across as being stubborn and bloody-minded. If a Corbyn government gets in as a result of their actions, they will never be forgiven. Modify your demands to Boris. Now, that's not a tweet that's just a single one. I'm getting loads of similar views.
The way a negotiation works is that, two sides have to sit around a table. Look, we said we want to leave alliance. We made an initial offer. They rejected it. We can't keep negotiating against ourselves. It's very simple. If actually people want a thumping majority for a Conservative-led government to deliver a proper Brexit rather than half in, half out, then give us a call. You know where we are. It's very simple, rather than just sort of somebody saying, no, we're not going to talk to anybody.
There are no lines free at the moment, but if you'd like to continue trying to get through, you may do before 12 o'clock. You never know. 0345 6060973. We will go to Matt in Reading in a moment, but first let's get the LBC News headlines at 11:30 from Philip Chrysikos.
Brexit Party leader Nigel Farage says he won't now be standing as a candidate in the general election. Mr Farage says he wants to, in his words, serve the cause of Brexit and can do that best by campaigning across the country. A crime scene is in place after a car crashed into a pub, killing a man in Colchester, Essex in the early hours. 3 people were injured. A man is being questioned on suspicion of murder, grievous bodily harm, death by dangerous driving and assault. A clean-up operation has started at China's state-owned news agency in Hong Kong after one of the most violent days of protests in the territory so far. Yesterday's offices were vandalised, while activists also hurled petrol bombs and set fire to metro stations. LBC weather: sunshine, showers and rain, persistent over eastern and northern Scotland, drier over the Midlands and East Wales, a high of 14 degrees.
This is LBC.
You can trust some things to start your day off just right. The patter of rain falling outside. Lovely. The same rain falling inside through a leaking roof. Not so lovely. But you can make the rain go away, thanks to trustatrader.com. Simply pop online to find plenty of vetted, reviewed, reliable professionals in an abundance of trades. Like a roofer who's a ray of sunshine.
Trustatrader.com. Time is money. Or so money says. Well, money. I know you like to dictate every hour of every day, add to my to-do list and throw the odd spanner in the works. But not anymore. This is my business, and I run it on my watch. I'm in control now, money. And times are changing. Save time with instant business invoicing, now on the Barclays app. Search Barclays Business and make money work for you.
Must have a Barclays business account. T's and C's apply.
I can't pretend to be a great celebrity.
Whatever the size of your business, now you can take card payments square and fair. Get next business day payments as standard, with no monthly fees and free point-of-sale software. Learn more at square.com/fair. Authorised by the Financial Conduct Authority for the provision of payment services. Terms and fees at square.com/fair.
That works the thingamabob.
The B&Q 3 for 2 offer is now on, including an unmissable 3 for 2 on all paint, such as Dulux, Valspar and Farrow & Ball. Our show-stopping deal ends this Sunday, so hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3 for 2 it. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free, see DIY.com.
What is back and lay betting? Backing is a traditional bet, like betting that the action hero will save the day. But on the Betfair exchange, you can lay a bet, which is betting on the same thing not happening and taking money from those who think it won't. Why not give it a try? The Betfair exchange.
T's and C's apply. Exchange basic package customers pay 2% commission. Other charges may apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
Iain Dale on LBC. Text 84850.
It's 11:34. Richard Tice is here taking your calls, chairman of the Brexit Party. Let's crack on. Mark is in Bristol. Hello, Mark.
Good morning, Ian. Good morning, Richard.
Morning, Mark.
Thank you for taking my call. Nice to speak to you, Richard. Even better than Ian, I might say.
Charming. Anyway, let's go to the next caller.
Yeah. My question to Richard is, we all know why Jacob Rees-Mogg has been silenced now, being brought into the Parliament, into collective responsibility. But Mark Francois is now saying that Conservatives want the same as the Brexit Party. Now, I know why it's wrong, what he's saying, and I know why he's saying it. But being that you now currently have the ear of millions of people within the UK via LBC, could you please explain why Mark Francois is saying that?
Look, Mark, ultimately, he's putting his party first. And, you know, he's trying to help Boris. But our job is to explain to the country that, you know, this deal, and let's be honest, you know, Boris inherited an absolute shocker from Ollie Robbins and Theresa May. And look, he worked hard, but the reality, this deal is full of pitfalls and traps. And our concern is that you will end up in a permanent transition period for a very long time. We've heard what Michel Barnier said, which is that it'll be at least 3 years. During this period, you're still under the ECJ. You can't change your rules on anything. You can't invest in strategically important industries like steel, defence, the railways, using state aid if necessary. You can't change tax. We couldn't, for example, reduce VAT on domestic fuel to zero if we wanted to, if we stay in these existing arrangements. And there's no incentive. This is the key thing. Previously, we were trapped by the backstop. Now, our real concern is that we will be trapped by the transition for year after year after year, and that is the key point. And we talked earlier with Ian about, well, you know, Boris could just walk away. But actually, you know, the evidence so far is that there is no incentive, there's very little will in Westminster to actually have the courage to walk away, and therefore you end up being trapped. And the European Union know that.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to get an argument from me because all of that I agree with.
Well, let's move. Mark, should we move on then?
Yeah, go on.
I want to have another argument. Rich
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Rich in Cornwall says, we are fans of you and Nigel and Brexit, but we do understand the deal. We get it. We know it's fairly ordinary, but we want to go with it. I would agree to all EU demands on day one of a trade deal, then get off and get this country rich with international deals, thus leaving the EU behind.
Well, the problem with that is that, you know, if you just sign up to anything with an EU trade deal, actually we won't be able to become a high-growth, low-tax, smartly regulated economy that we in the Brexit Party want to become, because you'll be trapped with level playing fields. You won't be able to change your tax rates so that you can compete. You won't be able to change, you know, get rid of the daft rules and regulations, you know, and we won't be able to get get back full control of our fishing waters, which is absolutely vital. You won't be able, for example, you know, if we're trapped in this never-ending transition, we can't create free ports around some of the most deprived areas of the country that would then, you know, lead to the creation of tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs.
I'm told we can have free ports even in the EU.
Yeah, but look, in technical terms, you can use the word, but it's not a proper free port where actually you can get all the advantages that you've seen elsewhere in the world that creates tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs. And of course, you know, during this transition period, we can't cut tariffs on the goods that we don't produce, on food, clothing, and certain foods, clothing and footwear that actually would reduce prices, reduce the cost of living for consumers up and down the country. Those are the opportunities we've got to go through.
Matt's in Reading. Matt, what would you like to ask?
Hi, guys. Richard, as you know, general election is to bring a party into power or a coalition into power for 5 years, and that covers a whole swath of policies and things to do with the running of the country, not just Brexit. And I've heard you talk very eloquently about Brexit this morning and what the party's position is. But I wonder if you could give us, please, your sort of thumbnail headlines from your manifesto on such things as environment and defence spending and regulations.
Absolutely, Matt. No, delighted to, because, you know, we started to announce some domestic initiatives back in June, and we announced, for example, that we would scrap HS2. We wouldn't want to send 39 billion to Brussels. We'd redirect 50% of the foreign aid budget back into public services back in this country. And what the key thing that we need to do is invest in key areas, in particular in the regions that have been left behind. We believe we should be investing 100 billion into local road and rail schemes that would actually improve people's lives, daily travelling, in their daily lives, much more than HS2. Yeah, so take environment, for example. I mean, Nigel said here on LBC...
Fracking. Would you ban fracking?
Hang on, I'll come back to that. Nigel said recently, and we're completely one on this, in terms of the environment, we should be planting tens of millions more trees to capture CO2. I've said at some of our rallies that we've had all over the country. On recycling, for example, I think it's morally utterly indefensible that we send our waste overseas to be burnt, buried or thrown in the sea. We need to look after our own waste and recycle it here in this country. So, we're developing that. We'll be releasing an additional range of policies. For example, on young people, we've said very clearly that there should be zero interest on all student loans. We need a simple apprenticeship.
How much would that cost?
How much would that cost? That would cost... the total student debt at the moment, which is extraordinary, is about £120 billion. That's the face value of all the student debt.
Yet you're going to increase that by charging 0% interest.
Yeah, that's right. But
you can't tell me how much it would cost.
I would tell you how much it costs. But if you think about it, right, government money, they can borrow money now for 40 years at 1%. So the cost of that actually would easily be serviced, because what we would do is we would extend.
You're going to take the state aid back, aren't you?
No, hang on. We would extend the repayment period. The repayment period of this. Hang on, sorry, I'm just responding on the student loan. We would extend the repayment period of the capital from 30 years to 45 years. So actually, you get much more recovery of the capital. So the cost would be neutral. That's the point on student loans, and it's completely unfair that students are charged an interest rate of over 6% when the government's borrowing money, long-term money, at 1%. They've been given a really bad deal.
I agree that's totally unfair, but I suspect at the last election you might well have been arguing that Jeremy Corbyn was selling the voters a fantasy by saying that student debt would be cancelled.
He was, but this is different, because this is quite clear. There should be zero interest, but you extend the repayment period from 30 years to 45 years. So actually the recovery of capital over that much longer period will therefore offset the cost of the interest. What's happening at the moment is that young people, students, they can't even pay the interest on the loan, let alone get into repaying the capital. And I'll just touch on this issue of apprentices, because at the moment it's far too difficult to use the government's apprenticeship scheme. They've got this apprenticeship levy, but tragically, since they introduced that, because it's so complicated, you've actually seen a collapse in the number of apprenticeships.
Why did you, and this really goes on from Matt's question, at the launch of your campaign on Friday, you talked a lot about the electoral system, abolishing the House of Lords, reforming the Supreme Court, very Westminster bubble issues, and I thought, isn't that a bit of a strategic mistake? Because I imagine they talk about nothing else down the dog and duck, about electoral reform and abolishing the House of Lords.
It's funny, actually, but our PPCs, our prospective parliamentary candidates around the country, talking to people on the doorstep, let me tell you, people are so angry with what's gone on, the parliamentary shenanigans and games that we've seen in the last weeks and months, that actually parliamentary reform really is of real concern to people.
And PR would solve that how? Because you would have a permanently hung parliament then?
Well hang on. We haven't exactly had strong and stable government under first past the post.
Well, we have until 2010.
The advantage of PR is that actually people don't feel their vote is wasted. Millions of voters in safe seats up and down the country feel that actually their vote
has a ridiculous argument.
It's not a ridiculous argument.
Every vote counts for exactly the same. The only people that complain about their votes being wasted are the ones who are in constituencies where the politicians haven't persuaded people to vote for their particular party.
If you're a Conservative in a safe Labour seat, you know that every time a general election comes around, your vote counts for nothing, and millions of people feel disenfranchised.
It counts just as much as a Labour vote does.
If you have a proportional representation system, actually you know that if you get above a certain percentage of votes, then you will get some representation in Parliament. That's the benefit. That's what we've seen, for example, as a new young party coming in with new ideas. We saw in the European elections that actually we can make some progress. Look, the first past the post system we've had, but it hasn't delivered what it's normally supposed to deliver, which is strong and stable government.
Matt, thank you. Let's go to David in Belfast. Hello, David.
Hello, how you doing?
All right, thank you. What would you like to ask?
What would your solution be to the conundrum of the border in Ireland? And would you just be in another elitist type leader who's going to not consider the 64, 66%, whatever it was that voted to remain?
In terms of the Irish border, look, it's one of the real concerns we've got about this agreement is that Northern Ireland is effectively annexed from the rest of the UK with this current essential sort of moving of the customs border to the Irish Sea. Look, our solution has always been that we wish to adopt what the EU's own expert, a guy called Lars Carlson, said in his Smart Borders 2 report to the European Parliament in November 17, and if you haven't read it, I urge you to, because he used the key words. He said, using existing technologies, existing international best practice, you can have a friction-free border. The chances are that you shop online, you can track a parcel from when it leaves the warehouse to when it arrives at your home. And the same is exactly the true with goods that leave a manufacturer in Northern Ireland on the way, for example, to Dublin, or vice versa. And let's remember on this border, because everyone understands, it's a hugely sensitive issue. But actually, there's already 5 different things that go across that invisible border at the moment. Right? There's a different currency, there's a different VAT rate, there's different customs on excise and duty, there's different income tax, and there's different corporation tax. So if you've got 5 different things, why does a 6th different thing make all the difference? It doesn't. What it requires is technology and goodwill.
But the technology, we're told, doesn't exist.
And you're told that, but of course it does. That's the reality. Lars Carlson, the EU's own expert, said it exists. We know it exists because we use it on our smartphone when we track our DHL or our FedEx parcel being delivered to our home. It's just the same.
David, would you like the Brexit Party to stand candidates in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah, just to see how irrelevant they would be, like the former party when Nigel had the UKIP. I mean, I think there was hundreds of votes they got out of like 1.6 million or something in total population. So they're definitely not in step. And would his party still be at the behest of the DUP, like the Conservatives that got backed into a corner?
Why don't you stand candidates in Northern Ireland?
Look, we made a choice to stand in England, Scotland and Wales. We are very supportive of the DUP on this, and indeed Ian Paisley spoke recently at one of our rallies. We support their position and stand, alongside them. So we've made a judgment that it's not right to stand in Northern Ireland.
David, thank you very much. Keep your calls coming, 0345 6060 973. It's 11:46.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
The latest polls indicate that we may well be headed to another hung parliament. So what's better, Boris Johnson and Brexit or Jeremy Corbyn and Brexit plus Skexit?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
Breast Cancer Now have been talking to LBC about the progress made in breast cancer and the work that still needs to be done to support the estimated 600,000 people living with the disease.
The thing with breast cancer is that we have seen a really encouraging level of progress, but the problem is we haven't cracked it. We're still losing far too many people to breast cancer.
Head to lbc.co.uk for more interviews with Breast Cancer Now, the research and care charity. LBC.
Money. How does that word make you feel? You might be thinking about what you'd love to spend it on, or what you have to spend it on. Maybe you think you're just bad with money, but here's the thing, you're not. You're just with the wrong bank. At Starling Bank, we want you to feel good about money. So we built a personal and business bank account with clever budgeting tools, instant payment alerts, and no fees when you spend overseas. Starling Bank, voted Britain's best bank twice. Download the app today. Smart Money People Awards. Eligibility criteria applies.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Fly Ryanair to Dublin this winter. Cozy up with live music in one of Dublin's pubs. Check out the free museums or head to the coast for delicious seafood. Fly to Dublin from just £24.99 per person one way. Ryanair. Low fares made simple. Limited availability. Book by November 30th for travel by the end of March 2020. For conditions, see ryanair.com.
When it comes to music, I've heard it all. Pink Floyd, Sean Paul, Slipknot. But in the Which Test Lab, hearing isn't enough. When we test headphones, we really listen. Not just to the music, but to the stuff that gets in the way. The traffic, the chatter, all that. Mind the gap. We simulate the loudest commute to find you the headphones that cancel out the noise. so you know we're only recommending the best.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Take 78.
Enjoy our unbelievable Super Saver deal with 2 Co-op British ranch steaks and skinny fries for only £4.
Yep, you went over the top again. Take 79.
Our latest Super Saver deal. Co-op. It's what we do. Normally £7.50, subject to availability, participating stores. Offer ends 19th of November.
I'm Jose Mourinho. I know a thing or two about being special. Getting a road named after you in your hometown, special. Winning the daily jackpot on Paddy Power games, not special.
Understood, Jose. Yes, someone wins an average £40,000 jackpot every single day. So if you win, don't think you're special. Daily Jackpots by Paddy Power Games. Jackpots must be awarded by 11 p.m. and vary from day to day. Jackpot is shared with other operators. Available on selected games. T's and C's at paddypower.com. 18 plus begambleaware.org.
Time is money. Or so money says. Well, money. I know you like to dictate every hour of every day, add to my to-do list and throw the odd spanner in the works. But not anymore. This is my business, and I run it on my watch. I'm in control now, money. And times are changing. Save time with instant business invoicing, now on the Barclays app. Search Barclays Business and make money work for you.
Must have a Barclays business account. T's and C's apply.
Iain Dale on LBC.
10 to 12 here on LBC. Richard Tice is with us, chairman of the Brexit Party, taking your calls. We've only got 10 minutes to go. We could literally go on for the whole afternoon, judging by the number of calls that are coming in. But we might get a few complaints if we did that, not least from my fellow presenters. Peter's in Cardiff. Hello, Peter.
Good morning, Ian. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Peter.
I'd like to ask you just a couple of brief questions. As you know, Wales voted for Brexit in the polls.
Yep.
We've lost the best part as a direct result of the uncertainty of Brexit. Some 50,000 manufacturing jobs, the most public ones at Bridgend with Ford. Also, our sheep farmers sell 90% of their lamb to the European market, and the European, and this isn't an advert for the European cause, but under the European directive, Wales benefits net about £500 million a year. What would the Brexit Party do to A, replace that £500 million, B, the first thing that's going to happen to the sheep farmers is they're going to get 15% levy on their lamb, which will make it ineffective. And C, the jobs, Richard, that are lost. Ford came out and said, sorry, uncertainty of Brexit, we're off mainland Europe. Several other small manufacturers. So if for Wales to re-vote positively for you again, what are you going to give us?
Sure. No, thank you very much for that. So if we actually take it in reverse order, in terms of the money, let's remember that money is our money. You know, we send way more to the European Union than we get back. So by actually not sending those huge annual payments to the European Union, then actually we can have that back, and we can then continue. Not only should money be invested in Wales, but actually there'll be more money to invest in the regional grants that are received by Wales and the other regions around the country. So that deals with the money. The second point about sheep is a really good point, and I'm well aware of that. But again, all developed countries around the world, continue to subsidise their farmers, and we would, the UK should of course continue to subsidise their farmers. And sheep is an interesting point, and there should be additional short-term support, as farmers adjust to the new markets and as it takes time to do trade deals with other countries around the world. But let's remember, ultimately, our objective of the Brexit Party has always been to get a simple free trade deal with the European Union alongside free trade deals with other countries all over the world. And just picking up the final point on Ford, the issue with the car manufacturers is actually, it's not Brexit, it's what's happened to the issue of diesel, the fact that, basically the emissions scandal, the government trying to move towards getting rid of diesel cars by, I think it's 2030. So that's been the big issue for all the car manufacturers, not only Ford, but also Jaguar Land Rover and Honda is actually all to do with the challenges over diesel. So, that's the issue. But let's remember that across the whole country, we're now employing well over 1 million more people in the UK than we did at the date of the referendum. So actually, in terms of jobs overall, there are many more people employed, and that's a fantastic thing that we should be very proud of.
OK, let's move on to Adam in Bracknell. Adam, what's your question to Richard, please?
Morning, gentlemen. Basically, I want Brexit, you guys want Brexit, and I'm just worried that if the split between the Tories and the Brexit Party is broken, that it allows Jeremy Corbyn to come in and ruin the country further. Would the Brexit Party be willing to have an alliance with the Conservatives if a referendum on a Leave or Boris deal, could be agreed to happen afterwards, and we can have the debate about which type of Brexit is best, and also, if Brexit is shored up through this election, then we could possibly go back to the EU and have a second crack or a third crack at negotiating a better Boris deal, and then we can sit down and decide, are we going to have a Boris deal or a no-deal Brexit after the election?
Look, we're very keen. We've always said we're very keen on a Leave alliance because we know that it can deliver a thumping majority, so that exactly as you've suggested, we've then got the negotiating leverage to get the best possible trading arrangements going forwards. That's our objective. And in a sense, as I said earlier on the programme, we can't negotiate against ourselves. We've made 2 offers to the Conservatives, and if people are worried about it, people frankly should be encouraging Tory high command. Stop sitting in your headquarters. Why not pick up the phone or come and have a meeting? But also, I just pick up the point that, again, I said earlier. Back in 2015, actually, David Cameron's majority was because the votes that UKIP received in some of the Labour heartlands meant that actually the Labour Party received less seats. And, there are 5 million Labour voters out there who feel utterly betrayed by Labour's position. And, many of those are going to vote for the Brexit Party.
OK, Adam, thank you. Janet is in Sunderland. Second call from Sunderland, a very Brexity area, I think.
Indeed.
Janet, what would you like to ask?
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Janet.
Richard, I'm a Conservative Leave voter in the 2017 election, but I am a huge Brexit Party supporter now.
Wonderful.
I have been to all your rallies.
Thank you,
in the
Janet.
North East. I pay you £100 a month to support your cause.
Thank you very much indeed.
I was on Question Time the week before last.
That's right, I remember it.
About the pact between Boris and Nigel. I go out canvassing, knocking doors, getting pledges in North Durham and in Sunderland and Washington West. I don't think you can get a stronger Brexit supporter than me, but I am worried about not working with Boris. I'm very worried about it. And I just want to know, if you can't form a formal pact, then should the Brexit Party and Tory parliamentary candidates stand down and have an informal alliance, like the Brexit Party's Daniel Rudd did, who was up against Bill Cash?
All right, Janet, we're running out of time. We've only got 90 seconds left, Richard.
Yeah, look, as I said earlier, we are getting representations from Tory MPs, from activists. What can we do locally, even if something isn't organised nationally? I think that will happen alongside tactical voting, and areas like like Sunderland, where we started our march to leave back in March. Are key areas in the North East. That was the highest percentage of Brexit Party votes in the European elections. It's a key target for us. You'll be seeing a lot of us up there, Janet, and we think we can make a huge difference.
And you're not going to stand... Are you going to stand candidates down, potentially, or just not put in any effort in a Conservative seat if there are these informal local arrangements? Because the Conservatives aren't going to stand people down, are they?
Well, look, let's wait and see what happens. It's 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks before the nomination papers go in for candidates, and, we're getting representations from all sorts of people. People know where we are. And MPs are calling, activists are calling. Let's wait and see.
And who's doing these informal? I mean, are you talking to people in different constituencies?
In terms of in different constituencies, it's a range of people. But yes, ultimately it comes up to the top of the party, because we're a very lean, efficient structure.
Richard, thank you very much indeed. That's Richard Tice, the chairman of the Brexit Party. We're going to do these phone-ins every Sunday at 11 o'clock. Not quite sure who we're getting next week, but I'll tell you, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll find out. On Tuesday at 8 o'clock, I'll be hosting an interview and phone-in with John McDonnell, Labour Shadow Chancellor, and on Thursday with Chuka Amuna, the Liberal Democrat Foreign Affairs spokesman. Coming up at 3, it's Ian Payne. But first, here's Majid Nawaz.
Thank you. Coming up, 3 doctors have won the right to launch a legal challenge against the Royal College of Physicians after it dropped its opposition to assisted dying. Should Britain allow euthanasia? But first up, Boris Johnson faces a double threat to his Downing Street hopes today. A new